I've got Windfall apples just rotting on the ground, so I'm going to turn it into a shelf-stable preserve. Now, Windfall apples don't keep that well. Obviously, they've all got damage, bruised from falling down, pecks on from birds, but it doesn't mean we can't preserve it. So what I'm going to do is harvest a load of these now, collect them up off the ground, and then we're going to go inside and we're going to water bath can them. Right, I've washed up my apples, got any soil off them, and now I'm going to prepare them. I'm going to use a peeler and slicer like this, so you put the apples in and it peels and slices them at the same time for you. Then I'm going to cut out any bad bits. Obviously it's got lots of bruises and things like that, which is why they won't store naturally. I'm going to keep scraps in there. I've got my saucepan there to fill up with the apples. And I've also got my canner heating up now. It takes quite a while on this electric plate that I've got. I've got my big thick chopping board there to protect my table. And I'm just going to give that a bit of time just to get up to a boil. Hopefully by that time we should have stewed down some apples, sterilised some jars and be ready for canning. So this device is awesome. You plonk an apple on there. Not too fussy about getting all the skin off. But I do want to get all the bad out. Just need to repeat that now enough times to do about 9 pints worth, or 9 half-litre jars, and enough for tea as well. Quite fancy a crumble. And you can see lots of little bruises on there, so we can just cut those off. But that is why we wouldn't keep the Windfall apples for natural storage. Now remember, this will cook down quite a bit. These are a cooking apple. This is Scotch Bridget, which I've probably mentioned in some of my other videos. It's been one of my favourites. It stores so well. That one's not going to go in that machine. So, as we've washed these apples up, the peels and the cores could go to make apple scraps vinegar, which is another use of them. They can be added to the compost. With UK law, I'm not allowed to feed these scraps to the chickens, but if I peeled this outside, I would be. But it's 4:30, it's dark already, and I think preserving is the perfect way to spend an autumn evening. Could also stew the cores and the peel down, right down. If I had the wood burner going, which as you can see is covered in my paperwork at the moment, because it's been so mild, I could use that then, stew down and use it as kind of like my own pectin when making jams and stuff like that with berries and things that don't set very well. I haven't finished doing all the apples yet, loads here. What I'm going to do is I've got a few done, I'm going to start stewing them down, heating it up. Or I wish I'd made a bigger spoon. Okay, while I'm waiting for everything to boil down, the apple's reducing and the canner is heating up. Although we're going to use it as a water bath canner, I should say a message from our sponsors. Nah, only joking, it's no sponsors. But what I should say is you should do everything via a book. So buy a manual for canning and follow the instructions to the letter to save you getting botulism. It can be dangerous if it's not done right, so just remember that. This is water bath canning, so this is with high acid foods. So you can do this with tomatoes if you add citric acid. You can do this with berries. You can do this with apples and pears in syrup, as well as just doing it as the pure apples like I am there now. Okay, I'm not adding any sugar to my mix. I like to be able to adjust it afterwards rather than before. I don't like it too sweet. These are quite nice tart apples, and they will reduce their tartness as they kind of cook down. But I think they're quite nice as they are. And I can always make them sweeter, but I can't take the sweetness away. So I'd rather do that. Makes it better then for kind of having with pork and stuff like that. Reduce it right down, and then I can think about getting it in the canner. Right, so although I am using my pressure canner, I am basically just using it as a big saucepan. So this is not being under pressure. And what I've done is got this to a rolling boil. On the bottom there, it's got a lovely plate that sits up to stop the jars touching the bottom of the saucepan. So if you use just a normal big saucepan, like I used to use that one, then just to make sure that you've got a rack or something that stops it sitting on the base, otherwise it will crack the glass. So this is perfect, but I'm not using it for pressure. So that is just coming to the boil now. So, get the lid back on, like that. I won't turn it because otherwise it will pressurise. So that's doing that. So I just need to get the apples in the jars, and then we can get them in there. And look at this is why it's good to do preserving in the autumn. Pitch black out there, and it is 5:15. So a bit rubbish, but that's what it is. Okay, so I've sterilised the jars in the oven. I'll keep them in this saucepan while I do this. I'm going to fill these up to within 1/2 inch, 12.5mm of the tops. Or like that one, doesn't go too much to start with. Now I've got one of these gauges which shows you the different steps, different head heights. So I want halfway, so 1/2 inch. So I need a bit more. But what I will do is use the other edge of this gauge once I've got them filled up to roughly where they are. And just make sure there's no air bubbles. Do that with all of them. Okay, now to wipe the top of the rims, make sure there's no apple or contaminants on top of them. Okay, we're going to add the lids, like this little nifty magnetic jar lifter, and place them on. Okay, so the rings go on, but you don't want to tighten them too much, just kind of finger tight, not kept strong. So the jars want to go on, they want to be just kind of, the rings want to go on, and they want to be, so the rings don't want to be too tight, just kind of hold it with one hand, although it's quite hot, and then just turn it with thumb and finger on the other, just so it starts to bite, and that's probably tight enough. I am guilty of over-tightening, which is no good. Jeez. It's quite hot, probably better off using a tea towel or something. Let's get these in the saucepan. What we want is the boiling water, where it'll go off the boil as we put these in. We want to bring our cup to the boil, and it wants to be 2.5 centimetres or an inch over the tops of these jars. So I'm hoping I've got enough water in there, otherwise I'll just top it up with a bit of boiling water. Now my recipe book, and it depends on your altitude, but says that these cans need to be in here for 20 minutes at a rolling boil. So I'm going to get these in and I'll pop the lid back on and get them up to boil. So go over the key points again. Remember, use a book, sterilise your equipment, follow the instructions, make sure you've got the right amount of water over it, make sure you adjust for your altitude. Just make sure you do it safely. It's dead simple, but just follow the rules. I love it. I reckon there's enough there for a crumble. Okay, so it's 15 minutes for the pint jars or 20 minutes for the quart jars, and then 5 minutes just letting it rest. You can leave it resting a little bit longer in there. And then I'll leave these then overnight, and tomorrow I'll take the rings off and check the lids are sealed. Any that haven't sealed I can use straight away, but the rest that I have can go in the pantry and they can stay there for a year. Hopefully I'll hear some pops in a bit, which is one of the best bits about canning, to be honest. Hearing those pops and knowing that they've worked. So yeah, let's wait till tomorrow and see how many we've got out of 9 that have worked. It's the next day, it's the moment of truth, so you've got to check that they've all sealed. So first of all, see if any haven't popped down. If you can pop any lids, they are straight off the bat. And then what you've got to do is take the rings off. We'll store it without the rings on, so then we can see if anything's gone wrong. You should be able to pick it up by the lid. So we've got 9 sealed. I'm going to clean the tops of the jars up now. And just around the rims if anything's come out. These aren't too bad. Now with this type of canning, we only use the lids once. So they're disposable. So what I'm going to do is write what's on them in permanent marker. That way I know the lid's been used and it won't get put back in the wrong place. It can just be thrown away. So I'm just going to put apple 22 on each one of these. It's a great use of Windfall apples. It's can be used in loads of different ways. Let me know in the comments what your favourite way to preserve apples is and what you do with them. Thanks for watching.